How's it going, YouTube? It's Unknown Soldier 41 again, back with another car video. So I just wanted to go ahead and describe one of my car's projects on its own, away from the overview I gave a couple weeks back. So this is going to be about my green car. Excuse me. So I've got two names for this car. I don't know which one I'll be keeping, but I got one that's Cheetah. And the other one is Sadie. I'm leaning towards Sadie for this car's name, just for personal reasons. It's a funny. It almost looks like a grandma car, and no offense to anyone whose name is Sadie, but it's almost a grandma name, so you know that's kind of fun. Pardon my sniffling. So we'll take a closer overview of this car here. You can see it's been turned around. I currently have the battery out of it while I'm working with all those other cars. So I'll go ahead and show you in detail now that there's light, and I mean hopefully the snow bounces some more light up into the car's body. It's a dark green. It's not black, it's not gray, or dark gray, but you can see that there is a dent back there on the trunk lid. I have another trunk lid that's perfectly fine, but I don't know if I'm gonna replace it or not yet. It wouldn't be too hard, but I'll explain why I'm not sure I'll replace it here in a bit. So while I was out on I've mentioned this before, but while I was out on a tracer for the Rona for work, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I wasn't actually sick, but I was trying not to get sick, so I was outside doing stuff in some nasty cold and wind. So I replaced the back bumper here. Right about here, they had a nice hole where, like, someone had backed into it and just shattered the fragile plastic from 98. So I replaced that with the same colored bumper. Then I moved over to here, and this back window was stuck. You can still pardon the stuff inside. We had other stuff going on, but you can see the line where it was stuck down on this car, and the motor was bad. It'd come off its hinge, not hinge, but it's the track. The cabling was all mangled, and it's typical stuff. It was easy to replace, so that was good. Now that the cab is sealed, I don't have to worry about critters getting in or water getting in or anything like that. And then once I got this window fixed, I went ahead and I bought window vents, like I said in my last video. So we'll see how well those hold up. I think if I go with more next time, I'm going to get ones that mount on the outside, kind of like this does right here, but just drill or tap it, because I don't know if this 3M tape is going to hold up with heat and cold here. It might fall off if I undo the window, or roll down the window. You can see the rust and that body damage right there. I don't know. I have no idea what caused this, but I'm not going to get it fixed. It would be infeasible with this car's body damage. Well, not body damage, rust problems. So, but I might make it look nice. I have trim from the other car I pulled parts off of that matches. I could put that on there. And I don't know if I've mentioned this, but this is a 1998 Pontiac Grand Prix SC, designated right there by that logo. Now it looks more like a GT because it has the 3.8 or 3800, and it's also got the GT front bumper now, as well as the back bumper. So you could technically classify it as a GT. I also went ahead and put new lights on, or new light housings, as well as a hood deflector, because I would get tired of stuff chipping my hood. And the hood, I don't know if you can tell, but it's got a slight dent, and by slight I mean major. And I got a replacement hood for this too, and like with the trunk, I might not replace it. It's small potatoes. So on this side, the kid who had the car before me had a major blowout on this side, and it took out all the plastic on the inside. It kind of cracked the original bumper, and it just mangled this fender. So I pulled that off of the second car as well, and yeah, I put that on there. That was a good learning experience. So, and here I had to pull out a window from that parts car. You can see it's the only tinted window on this car. It's funny to me, but that was a pretty easy replacement once I had it. Oh, shiza. That came down. Kind of upset about that. Oh, that's alright. Learning experience. And then, yeah, put a new motor in that door, window motor as well. And it rolled up nice and new, so I'm very happy about that. And I think that was, let me think here. I think that was all the work I did to this car so far. I had them just put just used tires on these rims just so I could have, I could move it and drive it and all that good stuff. So this one occasionally goes down in air, but that's that's what it is. So I'll go ahead and I'll pop the hood for you and just show you the modifications made by the previous owner, and then I'll get into the story of how this car came into my possession and who had it before me and all that good jazz. So you can see it's a little ragtag, but it's alright. So this is the 3.8, and most of you who would click on this video would probably know what this motor is or have a rough understanding. It might even look like the one you've got, but it's relatively young in terms of mileage. It's only got 150 some odd thousand miles, so I mean it's compared to how long these have been out, this is a pretty young car. And the transmission's good, no weird shifting, no knocking, anything of that sort. The only thing I've, I guess, mentioned in here, besides just looking at the beautiful bulletproof engine, is the cold air intake that the kid before me put on here. You can see it's very high quality, very, very professional installation here. That's a joke, fellas. It works. I mean, I would probably do the same. So it's got somewhat of a cold air intake. I had to put plastic when I did the fender over here. I also grabbed the plastic for this fender so I wouldn't have water come up and hit the filter. So at some point I'll have to replace that. Now we'll get to that point, but I mean, it doesn't leak any oil, it doesn't leak any coolant. Brakes are good so far. Where's some wood? I need to knock on some wood. But yep. So I mean, the fender, not the fender, the front's not perfect. You got a massive crack here, but it's no big deal, really. No big deal. So, yeah, I like this car. Now, I'll get into the story of how this came into my possession, and there were my fingers on the camera. So, I bought this car from a guy I work with at my work. We'll call him Bud. He's a cool guy, very nice kid. He had this when he was renting about a town or two away from me. So, and the kid he was renting with, unofficially, the kid wasn't on the lease, but he was renting. Bud allowed him to rent with him. Had this car, and for various reasons that I don't know, the kid moved out, probably because he couldn't pay rent, from what I was told, and he left this car behind. And yeah, it was pretty beat up. Like I mentioned, the back bumper was smashed, the fender was torn up. And the bumper on the passenger side, right where it meets the fender, it looked like someone had taken the football stitching off the top of a football and tried to put the plastic back together just to hold it. I'll show it to you here. I'll take a picture of it and put it at the end of this video. But it was very amusing to me. But anyway. So the kid parked it, that window was down, and he tried to paint the front bumper black, with just spraying it black, with spray paint, as well as the tires. You can see it. That wasn't me, that was what was on there. So, and then he just left this car to sit in some weeds and high water. So right where the rocker panel is, the water was just kind of under it. So we pulled it out. It fired up, and it was dingy and dusty since it had been left open to the air. And I think here comes a car on our road, so pardon that noise. Yeah, it's muddy. It's muddy out here with all the snow melting. But So this car was, a piece of junk, for better or for worse. I'll call it like it is. But I bought it for $500 since Bud knew I was into Grand Prix, and the engine and transmission were good, which was the main thing I wanted out of this car. If I could, couldn't have the whole car. But so we fired it up, and since the kid still owed him rent, Bud said, "All right, if you get the title signed over to me, I will go ahead and call us even." And the kid did, and I got the car, and then it sat there on that property for many months because I work second shift. It's not quite like the graveyard shift, but it's in between, and I didn't have a whole lot of time and daylight hours to go over and get this. And in the process of me working and him working, he had moved out of that property. Something to do with the landlord being a pile. So I won't go into that, but there's those people. So, and basically this car was still out there. I was kind of pissed I couldn't go out and get it. I didn't want to break any laws or get in trouble because I'm on someone else's property without permission explicitly. But I contacted the dude, the landlord, and said, "Hey, I've got this car out here. Can I come pick it up? I know where it's at. I bought it. I've got the lease and not the lease, the title in hand, and all that good jazz." Man, I think this plastic shrunk. Sorry, tangent. I'm very good at those. And he said, "Oh, the car's not on the property." And I said, "I'm pretty sure it is. I was out there just a couple months before." And he said, "No, it's not. They made off with everything." I said, "All right. Just if you're out there and you find it, let me know. I will take it off your hands, no problem. Just shoot me a text. It won't be a big deal. I'll come get it, and you won't have to hear from me ever again." I made 2 of those phone calls, and each time he told me the car's not out there. And so I went out there, fed up. I'm not a fighter or, a really pissed off guy, but I wanted my car and what I paid for it if I could salvage it. And I went out there to that property, and lo and behold, there were a couple of renters out there. Nice kids. Go to college there in the local town. And I said, "Hey, I know this is a bit unorthodox, but, with COVID and everything, but I got a car out here. My buddy used to live out here, and I was wondering if you would just let me look for this car." And they said, "Oh, you been out here?" They're like, Mick? And I was like, "Yeah, I've heard of him. I've talked to him." And they're like, "Well, what's the name of the buddy?" I was like, "Bud." And they're like, "Oh, we could get some mail from him." And they're like, "Yeah, you can take a look around." We got no problem with that. And so I thanked them big time, and tucked away behind 2 wrecked big rigs was this car. And I had not put it there. So it was towed or dragged or something, because I had the keys in my possession. I took them when I left the car the first time. And, I was like, sweet. So I had run home. I told them, "Hey, I will be back. I'm going to get this car off the property, and if you want anything, monetary, just let me know. I'd be happy to pay it." And they said, "Oh, no big deal," because they had a falling out with the landlord because he something about a broken gas line, and there was no heat in the house. And they're like, "We're going to be moving out. The only stipulation was I don't contact the landlord until after they moved out." So, and I'm not gonna stir that pot. I've got what I want. It's mine legally, and that's that. So, oh yeah, I'm a happy man now that I got that sorted out. So, but my current plans for this car, this is the other half of the story for this car, is what I plan to do with it in the meantime, as I'm just, piece by piece putting it back together. It's pretty well together at this point, but my current plan is, one of my brothers is pretty terrible with cars mechanically, and he just rides them hard and drives them hard and all that good jazz. So, and if anything were to happen with his current car, this car would immediately be set up. I would do the suspension work that still needs to get done, the brake work that still needs to get done, and I would slap some new tires on the front for him. Oh, there's another car. And he would, this car would be ready to move. It's roadworthy now. It was before, but it was roadworthy. So, but even if that day never comes, or he somehow manages to stay on the road flying at 85, then I will go ahead and go with step 2 and make this a utility car. This is the best way I can describe it. You know those utility trucks you see, front guard, back guard, or hitch assembly, lifted just a smidge off the ground, nothing major, so you see how it's lifted now, maybe like a couple more inches because of the snow here we get in the state. And then light bars, although I don't do light bars, I'm not a fan of LEDs. They're very bright, and I hate getting blinded by them on the road, so I'm not going to blind others with it, basically. But I'm going to take a Crown Vic front guard off one of those old school police cruisers, have them mounted on, or just weld it, and so it's to the frame, so I can push stuff with it, or worst comes to worst, push stuff with it. The trailer, as I mentioned, I want, because I'm going to get one of those trailers you use to haul your car around, like behind an RV or something, so that way I can pull my own cars if they break down or anything like that. And I mentioned the light bars, although they won't be light bars, they'll be the old school halogen lamps. I'll have 4 up top here, facing forward. The 2 on the very edges will kind of point out at an angle like this way, so like towards us, so I can see at night, or if I'm in a field or whatever. I'm going to have 2 that point backwards for reverse driving, so from the rear view mirror, or the side mirror here, it'll be kind of like a cone going out this way, so I can see what I'm reversing if I should need to. And that might sound dumb, but I've been in situations where it calls for it in the dead of night, or in fog or rain, and I can't see what the hell I'm doing. So it'll be nice. And I'm going to put a CB radio in here, get a big old whip antenna about 6 feet tall, roughly 100 inches or so. I think it's the biggest one I can find now on like Amazon, because I'm going to be putting a CB in my car, and my old man's got a CB in his car, or truck I should say. So it's old school nowadays, but it's good to have in case you need it. And with some of the crap that may or may not be hitting the fan, depending on what I won't get into that, but it's just nice to have, especially if you're coyote hunting. So basically this will be a big old redneck car. And I'll have a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff that I'm gonna do with all the things I just said that'll be good to know for future reference. So, and once I get to that point, I'll be sure to make another video, even if you guys aren't interested. This is just for me, for future reference, if nothing else. But yeah, so this is the car Sadie, and if you have any questions or comments, put it in the description below. Hopefully I remember to make a description, but I shouldn't. Tangent time. Yay, tangent time. We're gonna go take a look at the parts car that I bought to pull parts off of, and I will tell you a story on why I did so as we walked there. So all those parts I was talking about that I had to replace and move and get at a scrapyard, or a junkyard, that local junkyard, I happened to be looking for some taillights for a different car, and I spotted this green Pontiac 4-door, just like the one I showed you, sitting back there. And I'll show it to you, but it had all the parts I needed: front bumper, back bumper, fender, plastic, window, and some other various odds and ends. And like I said, same color. And it paid $300 for it. Whole car. Straight up. And in the process of spending those $300, I saved myself, not even joking you guys, a couple thousand. In terms of, if I would have went with new parts, would have had to get them painted and shipped, and there's no telling how many various little bolts and screws I would be missing, taking off the old stuff, if it was even there. So, a word to the wise, you can always do it yourself cheaper. Yes, that includes painting, if you know how to do it, or even if you don't. So, I'll show you. Here's the other one. This one's nickname is Yard Dog. You can see I pulled off the front bumper. The hood's gone. I got that over by a different car. I took the plastic off the wheel well here. Give you a better shot. so that I can use it on my car, and it's installed beautifully. For those of you wondering, it took, excuse me, had to spit real quick. It took a 7mm socket right under the frame, right about there back, to get the front part of it off. And it was much easier to get off with the bumper off, but you can't take it off until the bumper's removed. So you run into a dilemma where you would just basically want this car lifted so you can just work under it. But I did all the work right here. As a matter of fact, I pulled the other green car parallel to this one, made the front bumper swap, fender swap, and it was good to go. So originally, this door right here was not beat up. They did that trying to move it, and I was kind of pissed. But this is the window I took out, and you can see, parts of this car that will probably never get used again. At some point, like I mentioned in my first video, I'm going to be putting a tarp over this, so at least keeps most of the weather out, so it doesn't ruin what's left of the interior. You can see the back bumper's gone, the tail lights are in the trunk, and then the plastic for the back is gone. For those of you well versed in these cars, or year wise, about this size time of car, I will not be talking to you, but for people who have this and are like, can I replace my SE specific bumper with a GT one, or vice versa? The answer is yes and no at the same time. Yes, you can, but be warned, if you're going from SE to GT bumper, the GT bumper sticks out about this much further from the ground than the original SE one did, and the plastic in the wheel wells will be dropped down significantly to accommodate that, so you can use a little snap tight locking lugs, or whatever you want to call them, so that doesn't wobble in the wind and look funny. But whereas the SE one just bolts right into the frame, right where that rust spot is, right there. There's a little hole, and boom, you put that little tab up in there, it holds the original back bumper in. So if you're going to be making bumper swaps, if you're not grabbing the exact same one you need, just grab the plastic from both wheel wells in the back and front. That applies to the front as well. It's different. So just a word to the wise, or words of encouragement. So this one, I think I've already said this, but it's Yard Dog, its name, because it's got a bear right there. It looks kind of like a dog, but this one has the tan interior, and I won't lie to you guys, I'm not a big fan of tan. This is a little tamer than some of the ones I've seen, so it's tolerable, and despite being well worn, as you can see, some of it's still intact, and I might use it in other cars. I've got another vehicle that has tan, so if this all is still good, which I assume it is, because since this window's been rolled up, I will use it as such. So that's the other reason I'm trying to save this car as best I can. And I know I'm stuttering and I'm jumping around on my topics and my words, but it's just what it is. It's gonna come to me when I say it, so please just bear with me here. So right here, those locking plastic lugs, these are the retainer clips, I believe they're called. So these just lock in, snap in. This is what it would look like if it was pressed up in the fender. You basically pull this tab right here underneath and pull it out. So, and yeah, I think that's going to be it for you guys for this car. Cars, plural, since there's two of them. So we'll keep up down here doing Grand Prix stuff, and I will certainly let you guys know if anything fun's about to be happening. I could show you the original bumper and back bumper. Actually, I saved them because our trash is full, so don't worry about the white car. But right there is where it was shattered, literally, like they had hit something. So I will move this out of the way, and I will show you the original SE bumper that was on there, the first car, Sadie. But right there, if you can see it, is that football stitching I mentioned And it was so quirky, I had to keep it. I just had to. So, originally I was going to leave that bumper on there, but since I was replacing the fender anyway, I said screw it, I'll put this one on. And there's that hood from that green car. So, that should just about do it. So you guys have a wonderful week, day, nap, anything really. And we will catch you guys in the meantime.